Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'll now call this meeting of the University Senate to order. Our second item concerns administrative responses to the Senate actions, for which there are none pending. Our third item is a list of recent faculty, staff, and student deaths that have been sent for announcement to the Senate. I invite you to observe a moment of silence while I read the names. Madeline Chitwood, Anthony Deloach. Item 4 is approval of the minutes from the University and Faculty Senate's meeting on March 19th, 2026. Are there any objections to approving the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes are approved by acclamation. Item 5 concerns the Vicki R. Courtney Award for Outstanding Service to the University Senate Governance. I invite Cliff Steer, Chair of the Award Committee, to present this item.
Thank you, President Cunningham, and good afternoon, everybody. In my role as the University Senate Clerk and Chair of the Award Committee, it is my pleasure to recognize this year's recipients of the Vicki R. Courtney Award for Outstanding Service to University Senate Governance. The Vicki R. Courtney Award is named in honor of the former longtime director of the University Senate Office for her leadership, commitment to collaboration, and her enduring contributions to shared governance. This recognition acknowledges faculty, students, academic professionals, and administrative staff and civil service staff system-wide who have made a significant impact on University Senate governance. Award recipients receive a one-time stipend and an engraved plaque. This year's recipients of the Vicki R. Courtney Award for Outstanding Service to University Senate Governance are Rosemary Valles, Chair of the Civil Service Senate, Whitney Fracas, former Chair of the P&A Senate, and Shanna Waters, Chair of Campus Committee on Student Behavior. And I know that each and every one of you is in the audience, so if you could just perhaps turn on your cameras so that we can extend a congratulations to all three of you. Thank you very much, and thank you, President Cunningham.
Thank you, and congratulations to all of the award recipients, and thank you for those who worked on the awards. Item 6 is the President's report. So as we hearken to near the end of the semester here, we also mark Earth Day this week. I want to highlight some of the incredible work that our students, faculty, and staff across the university are doing to advance a more sustainable planet. Most recently, our environmental sciences research were featured in the Star Tribune for breakthrough work to remove PFAS forever chemicals from wastewater. We also recently announced an incredible milestone of our 300th startup since 2006. This matters for many reasons, but also because faculty, staff, and student discoveries are translating into companies' careers and solutions that improve lives and fuel our economy. The University of Minnesota currently ranks 3rd among all U.S. universities for startup creations. And congratulations to our women's gymnastics team. They delivered a best ever season and finished 4th at the national championships last week. They wrapped up their year with a record 30 wins, and we are so incredibly proud of them. We're continuing to advance our strategic roadmap. Yesterday, university leaders, industry innovators, and policymakers gathered to celebrate the launch of the University of Minnesota's new AI Hub. We shared the university's vision for this initiative and heard from leaders in academia, industry, and government about the opportunities and responsibilities of advancing AI. Also in progress towards our strategic roadmap, earlier this month, we adopted the Okanagan Charter This means we've made a commitment to embed health into all aspects of university culture and to lead health promotion locally and globally. We are fully supportive of our faculty in enacting evidence-based classroom strategies to enact this charter university-wide. On the healthcare front, the mediated settlement agreement that the university forged in January with Fairview and M Physicians was an important milestone, but was not the finish line. The university continues to work diligently and remains fully committed to and hopeful that we will forge final agreements with Fairview Health Services and M Physicians, and I'm confident that we will indeed wrap those details up. Getting the details of those agreements is what's right, and that's what matters most. We continue to be negotiating towards those details in good faith. Our focus is and always has been on the health interests of Minnesota, and that includes sufficient and sustainable funding for the medical school. Before I conclude, I'll just note that Provost Ritter will talk in more detail about conversations that are running through the university around different tracks, including our contract faculty, teaching specialists, and lecture tracks. I just want to add my assurances early on here that despite some things I've heard proliferated, let's say, in the ether, our administration has no plans of getting rid of those tracks or converting contract faculty to P&A staff. I've heard a lot of, I think, concerned rumors, and I just want to do my best here to dispel some of those myths and assure people that what we're all interested in here is how we refine policies and practices to allow for multi-year appointments, promotion standards, appropriate governance rights, and opportunities to fully participate in professional development. And I'll let the provost speak more to that. And with that, I am open for questions. Oh, and the link is in the queue in the docket and in the chat. As a reminder, we will rotate through constituencies as the queue allows. Amber, please call on the first person.
Looks like I got to give the first person a second to get in line. Oh, thank you for that, Chase. I got to open up the form. Sorry. I forgot that I closed them between meetings.
While you're pulling that together for the first question, I'll just add a thank you to everyone who joins us with their camera on today. I really do enjoy getting to see all of you here together as we work towards shared governance, and I do appreciate the opportunity to get to not speak to black boxes, which is much less humane. The link is open now.
All right, and our first question is from Chase Krug.
Hi, President Cunningham. My question is on the Student Writing Center. We've been hearing that that program will be cut or completely eliminated in CLA's upcoming budget. Can you speak on if that program is going to be cut, and is there a way that we could still fund that service for students? Because I think that's critically valuable for students to have a writing center to go and talk to experts, especially for national award scholarships and the like.
Yeah. Thank you, Chase. The first thing that I'll say is I have no personal knowledge about that program or cuts to it. And I will remind people that, individual program cuts at the school level are within the purview and full decision of the dean. And I am not involved in making those local decisions, as is best for local context. I do see my provost here has some information about it, though, and is willing to offer some. So with that, Provost Ritter.
I don't believe there are any plans to make cuts, Chase. There is a writing center in the College of Liberal Arts and a writing center also within the Office of Undergraduate Education We're looking at our overall structures in the Office of Undergraduate Education to see if we can better align some of our service areas. I think that is what led to this rumor on whether or not we can better align what is happening there with what's happening in CLA. If anything, I would like to see writing support expanded.
Thank you.
There you have it. Thanks for letting me phone a friend. Next.
Do not have anyone else in line at the moment.
Well, I think we're all feeling the end of the semester and hope that end of the semester is going well for you. So seeing no more questions, I will move on to item 8, the Provost report. Provost Ritter, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. As we head towards finals and then graduation, I wanted to offer a few reflections on the academic year coming to a close, as well as what lies ahead. Over the past week, I have visited the Morris and Crookston campuses. Next week, I travel south to visit the Rochester campus. With that, I will have visited every school, college, in campus over the course of my first year as Provost and Chief Academic Officer. Whew. And it's been a pleasure. My visits to Morris and Crookston reinforced my belief in the power that comes from seeing ourselves as 5 different campuses that are part of one University of Minnesota. Each of our campuses is distinctive and unique. All of us benefit from being part of one larger university community. My thanks to Chancellor Rodriguez, who hosted me on my visit to Morris. I was there on Undergraduate Research Symposium Day, a campus-wide event. Over the course of the day, I heard from many talented students who were thriving in an environment where their close connection to the faculty and the opportunity to pursue learning and scholarship across a range of disciplines was evident in the excellence and innovativeness of their senior projects. I also learned about the Morris model, which brings together a coalition of educational, government, and industry partners to advance community resilience, new approaches to production agriculture, and energy efficiency. Morris students and faculty, as well as the scientists from CFAN's Research Outreach Center in Morris, are key participants in this work. It struck me as a model for community engagement and scholarship in alignment with our land-grant mission. At Crookston, we celebrated the dedication of the Nielsen Family Wellness Center. Les Nielsen, who grew up in a small town in western Minnesota, is an alum of the old Northwest School of Agriculture, which stood where the Morris campus now exists. That high school, which had ties to the University of Minnesota, helped to launch Mr. Nielsen into a successful career. In gratitude for what he gained, he has been supporting 4-year scholarships for other students coming from small rural communities to enroll at Crookston. Nearly 100 students have been given the opportunity for University of Minnesota education thanks to the Nielsen family. As someone who myself grew up in a rural, economically depressed area in upstate New York, I can appreciate how transformational it is to have that kind of opportunity. Back on the Twin Cities campus, I was fortunate to participate yesterday in the launch event for our new AI hub. We call this initiative a hub because it will serve as a connection point across schools, colleges, and campuses within the university, as well as with other educational, industry, and community partners outside the university. The hub seeks to be a connector not only for the university, but more broadly for the state, with core commitments in 3 areas. 1, expanding AI literacy. 2, advancing responsible practices. That means foregrounding ethics, transparency, and accountability. And 3, supporting a strong AI ecosystem that links education and workforce development. The new hub, then, is not just about advancing technology. It is about preparing people, strengthening communities, and supporting a future where innovation and responsibility move forward together. Finally, I want to return to the topic I wrote about last month regarding what we need to do to reform our policies and practices related to the appointment and roles of our contract faculty, teaching specialists, and lecturers. There have been many discussions and reports on this topic over recent years. We are grateful for the work over the years of the various shared governance committees on these issues. I also look forward to receiving the report next month from the task force that Vice Provost Beth Lewis is chairing on these issues. Overall, I want to make clear that our commitment now is to move beyond reports and recommendations to action. We believe that the contract faculty, teaching specialists, and lecturers at the university make an enormous contribution to our educational mission. Our goal over the next year is to reform our policies and practices to allow for the following: multi-year appointments, specified review, reappointment, and promotion standards, appropriate governance rights, opportunities to participate in professional development, and a clarified commitment to academic freedom rights. In making these reforms, we do not anticipate abolishing any of these job categories. Rather, we want to strengthen these categories by updating our policies and guidelines. We also do not believe it is appropriate to place all of these colleagues into tenure track positions where they would be subject to up or out promotional reviews for their achievements across the domains of scholarship, teaching, and service. We believe that the exceptional contributions that our teaching-focused instructional colleagues make to the educational mission should be honored on their own terms and secured through multi-year contracts. Again, I want to emphasize that it is time to move from studying these issues to implementing reforms. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Provost Ritter. Item 9 is questions to the Provost. The link to get the queue is in the docket and in the chat. Amber, please call on the first person.
First person is Eric Van Wyk.
Thanks, Amber. Thanks, Provost Ritter, for your comment. So I agree with quite a bit of what you said, right, about how some of these things can work, but not all of it. I think it's critically important that administration and faculty governance work together on this, right? This is an important issue. And if there are going to be changes to the tenure code, which I think some of us are anticipating, right, this has to go through faculty governance, right? Moving fast on this only can lead to negative unintended consequences, right? The AF&T proposed task forces only laid out principles to be investigated further. It's not a complete report at all about an implementation process, right? It only laid out the principles. The details, which are really important, would come later. That's what those task forces are meant to get into, right? These unintended consequences are dangerous. We saw a lot of confusion. President Cunningham just mentioned this with regard to hiring of term faculty, how things were moving fast earlier, and that led to confusion and distress among a lot of people. So I would encourage us to start now, but not move in haste, right? You're right, we need to begin now, but we can't do this quickly, right? Cracking the tenure code is a big deal, right? We have to be very careful about that so there aren't unintended consequences that can be quite damaging. And so that's why I think the fact that we've survived some of these violations in the tenure code for decades, people have known about this for a long time. We need to fix it, and we should start now, but rushing through this process without a slow, deliberative, careful process would be a mistake, right? Those task forces that AF&T has proposed, that task force has proposed, right, are there to get into the details. And I would hope that shared governance can work effectively with the administration on this. That's why those task forces are supposed to be set up with a third of the members appointed by the provost, right? So that shared cooperation can actually happen. So I hope that's something that we can agree to work on together.
Eric, thank you. As you know, you and I have been talking about these things quite a bit, and I appreciate the dialogue. You are right, we have a lot of shared goals, and I think that's the very important foundation for this. I also don't believe that what we're talking about is about moving fast. I have a stack of reports and recommendations that span multiple committees and multiple years. I would also articulate that I very much share your commitment to shared governance. Any proposed changes to the faculty appointment and tenure code would require multiple committee reviews and further discussion in the faculty senate as a whole. Further, I would remind folks that the task force that Beth Lewis is chairing has on it representation from the key shared governance committees. So we may have different approaches. I think this is an important conversation for this broader group, but I also think we should all celebrate that we have common goals.
Except there are no AF&T members on that task force, and it's dominated by administrators.
Eric, sorry, we have our next question now.
Eric, your 2 minutes are up.
Yeah, thank you.
Next in the queue is Angie Peltier.
Hi, I don't have a question. I just wanted to let you know, Provost Ritter, that some of us that are serving in these faculty-like or faculty light positions do pretty much all that tenured faculty do. So I work for Extension as a regional educator at the Northwest Research and Outreach Center, and I write grants. I do research, applied research in the field, and then I extend that research out to folks in the field that can use it. I also write scientific articles, and I write popular press and just general information articles for the general public. I just wanted to let you know that we already are required to go through and show your body of work, either show it and pass muster, or don't show it or don't pass muster and you're out. So some of us are already in this sort of position, and yet we have no academic freedom except in name only. And so I just wanted to let you know that. I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to Eric.
I didn't have a lot to add, except that the task force that Provost Ritter was commenting on is dominated by administrators, and there's no one from AF&T on that committee. So if it's proposing changes to the tenure code, that's the wrong way to go about it, right? The Faculty Senate has set up a committee for this exact purpose and for that exact topic. And so to bypass that committee in the initial work, I think is a huge mistake. I think it can only lead to bad consequences.
So Angie, thank you for the comments. You know, my read of our board code is that you do have academic freedom rights. I do understand that people are concerned about that not being as upfront and explicit as they would like, and also the importance of making clear what academic due process looks like. So those are among the things that I think very much need to be attended to here. And Eric, we're going to just have to beg to differ on some of this in good spirit. I don't believe that we have ignored shared governance at all. We've had lots of discussion, input, and many reports from your committee. Thank you.
So with that, we are at time, so we will move on. Item 10 is the SCC FCC Chair's Report. Professor Leo has provided a written report, and it's linked in the docket. And you know, before we go on, I think I just want to add that that's an important conversation that we were just having there about the faculty and all of the lines that we have that work across all of our missions are incredibly important, and we need to work to get those right. Item 11 is an update from our faculty legislative liaisons. Professor Blair, please go ahead.
Why, thank you. Amber has a couple of slides that I'd like to show. Well, that's coming online. I'll introduce myself. My name is Robert Blair, and I am paired with Mark B. as the faculty legislative liaisons. We work with the FCC, and our job is to be a conduit of information between all the faculty in the system and the legislators in Minnesota, so over in St. Paul. Okay, the next slide, please. You'll probably recall that you saw this last April. I'm sorry, last March, that Mark B presented this. The university has a bonding request asking for some money for HEAPR, maintaining buildings, money for a new St. Paul Campus Center, and funds for a dentistry renovation of the dentist clinic in Moose Tower. The Governor Waltz, in his budget this year, zeroed out the St. Paul campus request and the dentistry clinic request, but allocated a guess of $75 million for HEAPR. Both the House and the Senate are pawing over these ideas, coming up with budgets, and have not yet produced bills with specific amounts. Early in the session, we're hearing that there may be no bonding. Halfway through now, we're hearing that there may be some HEAPR money, and we're getting some really favorable comments about the St. Paul Campus Center funding, which would be great. Okay, next slide, please. In our effort to improve and increase information between all of you and the legislators, we've been producing podcasts trying to explain all of the nuances of what's happening at the state capitol, and hope some of you at least have clicked on these podcasts to learn about things such as the new St. Paul campus. Next slide, please. One of our efforts is also working with different legislators. So we've been visiting people on the Capital Improvements Committee, the Higher Education Committee, the Environments Committees, and they often want a summary of what the faculty think, which is awfully hard to come into a single page. But we did develop a single pager advocating for all three capital requests. Next, please. The end of the session is May 18th. So we've got 25 days to go. And as in any legislative year, it seems like everything gets finalized in the last 2 days. We expect to see some budget or bonding bills come through maybe around the 12th, maybe around the 14th, but we really won't know the end of this tale until May 18th at midnight. Next, please. One thing we do need is help from you. Advocate.umn.edu is a website which allows you to sign up for notifications about, hey, reach out right now with an email about the St. Paul Student Center. We've learned this year that the legislators only count the number of emails they get on a topic and rarely read in depth, but every email counts. So it would be nice if we could use advocate.umn.edu to reach you and say, hey, reach out now. And I think that's the end of my shtick. Yep, thank you. Any questions? Or am I allowed to have questions?
I think maybe we can send people on to you to find you for questions.
Yep, fll@umn.edu.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Blair. I will add, it is making a difference, your efforts. I've been talking to legislators even just a couple days ago, and Our voices are getting through for the importance of this and the importance of it for all of Minnesota. And it really does matter. And they really do count the number of contacts. And so not only you know, feel free to have your students and your community members and everyone that cares about the kinds of things that we do, for example, in the St. Paul campus, across the state and how that benefits it. You know, now is the moment. So thank you for those efforts and that wonderful presentation, Professor Blair.
Thank you.
Item 12 is action on the administrative policy on individual conflicts of interest. Is there any discussion? If there is no discussion or questions, Amber, do we need to do a poll or something? There's the queue. Thank you. Please use the link to join the debate queue if there's any questions.
I don't see any, and I do have a poll ready.
Okay, thank you. So with that, go ahead with the poll, Amber. Open. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I had put my name into the debate queue and was not called, so I'm concerned that we're voting without looking at the queue, or maybe I did it wrong. I don't know.
I think it maybe just didn't come up fast enough.
Can we take down the poll and if there's a question, manage it?
Sure. All right. So yes, I'm now seeing Barb Diker.
Yes, thank you. May I go ahead?
Please.
Thank you. President Cunningham, thank you. I would like to encourage people to vote against changing the policy at this time. I think it needs to go back to committee. There have been a lot of changes in research recently, and those changes have not been incorporated into this policy. We need to be sure that the university is aligned with other similar universities in order to assure that we are in competition, both as a university and also as PIs. And I would encourage everyone to consider saying no and allow this to go back to committee so that it can have a more comprehensive review. Thank you.
Right. Do you have one?
Gooden, I know you're present to answer any questions. Do you have any comment on that?
I'd just like to know which committee are you suggesting that this go back to, and are there specific issues that you see are not addressed in the current policy?
Yes, I would say that the biomedical research funding has changed dramatically, and I think we need to reevaluate what is considered the right way to go for faculty who are doing human subject studies. And I have a number of faculty who are interested in helping take a look at that language. I don't really know which committee it goes back to, sorry.
In the queue, I have Tim Moore next.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to echo what Barb had just said, and the faculty that I represent are far more involved and knowledgeable in this topic than I am, but I'm loosely aware of the federal research funding crisis making industry partnership more important now than ever, that the policy has the potential to place us at a competitive disadvantage when it comes to recruiting faculty, recruitment and retention. And then finally, patients and the public can suffer when clinician scientists can't effectively advise industry. So similar to Barb, I don't know what committee that this would be returned to, but I know those concerns are pretty robust among the faculty that I represent.
So in the chat, it says the policy was consulted by the SRC. I imagine, is that the research committee? Yeah, so. Any other questions or comments?
I have one more in the queue from Ava Von Dasso.
Thank you for making time. I don't know a whole lot about the conflict of interest policy. I looked over the documents and not being, since I'm in the humanities, not doing biomedical research or the like, it's difficult for me to evaluate. I did notice that in one point, it appeared to be that policy was being changed to accord with practice, and that seems like the wrong way around. I would want to know more about uh, what's being, what are the proposed changes and why are they proposed before voting in favor of such amendments.
So I can address that, Professor. No, we're just making administrative adjustments to how we've been doing things, and it's just administrative practice between our program and our conflict panels. So, for example, we used to, when we were doing our annual compliance reviews of our 200 plus management plans, as part of our agenda, we'd list all of the management plans that we had done the annual reviews on in our agenda. And we don't do that anymore. There's no reason to have done that. So it was just an administrative cleanup. There really wasn't any substantive changes to the policy.
Thanks, John. Any further question or comment before we move to the poll?
There are no more in the queue.
Okay. With that, Amber, do you want to initiate the poll?
Yep, I just have to make sure that I can redo it. There we go. Ten more seconds if you wish to vote. And last call. With 61 ayes and 76 nays, that motion does not carry.
All right. Thanks very much for the comment on that. Moving now, item 13 is discussion and action on proposed changes to the University and Faculty Senate Constitution, bylaws and rules. Amber Bathke will present this item in her role as Deputy Director of the Senate Office.
All right, let's see, those are the right slides. Yes. Now I can't see them. There they are. Okay, so those of you who were here last month or had a chance to look at the minutes know that this is kind of the second reading of this. I'm just going to go over quickly the pieces of it that there were questions and concerns about last time. I'm not going to go through all of the kind of major changes. Those are detailed in the memos, and everything is redlined or marked up in the document for everybody to see. So one of the major changes that was a topic of a lot of discussion last time was the special meeting provision. Just as a reminder, this is a little bit of cleanup from in 2023 when we changed from the Senate being able to request a meeting with 10 senators to demand a meeting. So essentially call a meeting without any, intermediary. We made the thresholds a little higher, and then we put into the University Senate this provision where all of the constituencies have to sign on. But we accidentally made it so people in the P&A and Civil Service Senate who are not members of the University Senate could participate in that call, which doesn't make sense. So the attempt now is just to clean that up by specifying that at least 2 members of the University Senate from each constituency must be part of the call. There was quite a bit of debate about how to do that, especially when all those seats aren't filled. The Senate Consultative Committee had some discussions about this, and we discussed it here last month. And this was the language that was landed on by the SCC, that if there's less than 50% of the seats are filled, only one person from that constituency needs to be involved. And if there's less than 25% of the seats filled, that constituency can be omitted. The other thing that generated a lot of discussion last time was the proposal to broaden the eligibility of the parliamentarian by removing the requirement that they're eligible for the faculty senate. The FCC is still the group that put forwards a name, and the faculty senate still must approve that person. So there's still kind of those checks and balances in there if you want. But yeah, so that is the proposal there, I believe. That is all the slides I have, so I will now open it up to questions, I guess.
Cue.
And calling on my own people, or my own questions, I guess. First in line is Sasha Zagaloff, who is Con.
Thank you, Amber. President Cunningham, I am here to vote con for the amendment regarding who needs to endorse a call for a special session. As a reminder, we had one back in December, and had these new policies been in place, we would not have been able to have that special session of the University Senate. And it was incredibly important to us that it was the entire University Senate that was present, not just the Faculty Senate. And when we were trying to call that special session, in fact, there were members of some of the other senates that were unwilling to endorse the call for the special session because they were concerned about retaliation if they had their name attached. So I respect the work that's been done, and I'm not prepared to vote yay for this. Thank you.
Next up is Cal Morgendahl, also Con.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand the rationale for why this is being brought up in terms of this sort of constitutional change. But as Sasha was saying, I cannot support it. This is going to raise the bar to call a special session to a height that's just not reasonable. The language we've got is the language that's being proposed is going to shrink that pool of senators, as Sasha mentioned, who can call that special session. And in order to call that, it's going to be a lot more challenging for the people who are trying to get those petitions signed from that sort of smaller pool. This is going to be an issue even if it's something that a supermajority of the Senate supports and is willing to pass. I mean, we saw that with the med school special session, that resolution passed quite handily. You've got these sort of provisions for if some of those seats aren't filled that could mitigate this, but the bar is still going up. And we could be in a position, looking at the numbers, we could be in a spot where as few as 7 senators refusing or feeling unwilling to sign on could completely block a special session from happening, even if the entire rest of the Senate were to support a particular piece of legislation. I want to make it clear I'm not just saying we should always have special sessions all the time for literally everything. I mean, they're a pain for everybody, especially for the Senate office. I can understand we don't want to be doing them all the time, but we've done so much important work, again, with the med school and with other issues where things just were not able to get to the floor without things having to go to a special session. And once they got to that session, they passed comfortably. I'm worried that if we pass this, we'll be losing out on the agility to move quickly for those big issues in times of need. When it comes to big issues like that, academic freedom, the medical enterprise, I don't want to sacrifice that agility, and I cannot support this amendment. Thank you.
Just a quick note from the Senate office perspective. I don't particularly care if there are special sessions. What I don't want is people that aren't part of the body being able to call them. Next up is Dominic Scavullo, who is pro.
Well, Amber, I think you just kind of hit the nail on the head with what I was about to say. It seems like logical that members that aren't part of the University Senate wouldn't participate in the call for a special session of the University Senate. And while I recognize it's important, especially on some of these major issues like academic freedom and the medical school, that we bring the entire University Senate together, it is still possible for individual senates to meet with their own constituencies. And please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there's probably a provision for a joint session of certain constituencies. Maybe not. Chase is shaking his head. But my point being, it doesn't make sense that people who are not members of the University Senate are participating in a call for a special Senate of the University Senate. It does shrink the pool, but that's the fact of how it is. People outside the body shouldn't be weighing into that. Thank you.
Thanks, Dominic, and sorry to steal your part of your comment. Next up is Emma Malls, who is con.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Senate Office, for all of your work on this. Yeah, I just want to emphasize Sasha's point. My name is Emma. I'm a faculty senator from the libraries, but I could also be a PNA senator. I sit, like many of my colleagues, in that position where I'm represented both by faculty senate and by PNA senate. PNA senate does not use a representative model that matches sort of the colleges and units, unlike faculty senate. I bring this up to just say there may very well be times when there is an issue that seems incredibly small and not of issue to the large university, but actually is. As someone from the libraries, we are a central unit without that guaranteed representation on University Senate through our PNA senators. We rely on the representation through our faculty senators. Civil service right now, we are in a fortunate position where we have library civil service senators. That is not a guaranteed case. So I'm also concerned that we have a different representational model across the three senates that based on kind of how the cards fall, you could end up in a position where your specific unit of the university is not represented by a senator in PNA Senator Civil Service Senate. So I understand this is complicated, but I want to thank everyone for their time, and I will not be supporting this amendment or motion, excuse me.
Next is Joshua Braverman, who is pro.
Hello, I'm a PNA senator as well as a university senator. I do support this. In strange as it sounds, I support this being passed and being pro, but I actually agree with basically everyone who spoke on the other side as well. So I do almost want to recognize that off the top. I think maybe there's some deeper issues that are being pointed out here, because if we can't get like two people on PNA and two people in civil service, I tend to believe it should not be a special session then. As someone, moving into being the incoming chair-elect for PNA Senate, I've looked at a lot of the documents, and like if we have a group that's so small such a small group of PNA folks and civil service folks on the university Senate, where this starts becoming a single-digit problem, that's an issue of representation, that PNA and civil service are underrepresented. That's a bigger problem and something I know that PNA feels pretty strongly about. But I think that like that is a problem, but it indicates a much deeper problem. Where like, no, if you cannot get two people on each of the other groups, I do not believe that should be a special session. It should be a special session of the faculty senate. The university senate, for example, I cannot vote on the faculty senate vote later today because I am not on the faculty senate. I particularly disagree with that, but it also brings up the point that there's sometimes different constituencies that are going to vote on different things. And I tend to believe that more should be coming to the university senate compared to the faculty senate. So I would just say I do vote for it just because I want there to be the ability for two people to have to agree for something that's university-wide. But at the same time, obviously, this is a much bigger issue that should be addressed.
As a chair here, well, I certainly don't have any opinion, nor would I weigh into the details. I do want to just highlight that I hear two different issues being addressed in these comments, and that's important to raise up. I mean, one is really a question I hear about representation that potentially could be addressed in other ways if people feel it is important. It's your body to do so. So I just want to highlight, it seems like there are multiple issues here. I'm not sure which one solves that, but if people do feel that the representation is of issue, there's likely ways to address that separately. So it sounds like it may be important to people. Amber, do we have time for another question?
I am not tracking on what time we started. Does anyone, Laurie, did you know?
We have 5 more minutes for this item.
Okay, thank you. And I just want a quick mention because I had a question about it behind the scenes that we're discussing all of the motions right now. So a lot of opinions about the special meetings, which I understand, but just for clarity, if you have questions about the other ones too. Next up is Chase Krug.
I just have a parliamentary question first. So we're going to, are all these motions at once, or how's that going to work? Can you just clarify what you just said?
We'll vote separately on them, but the discussion is all for all of them.
Okay. And I need to move my amendment now then, correct? Or are we?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. I will move the amendment previously submitted to the Senate office to be added to the Senate rules package regarding motion 2 and request a second from the body.
Second.
Somebody needs to show something on screen because we have no idea what.
Great. So I think we'll need to refer, it's going to be shown on screen what the amendment is. Otherwise we won't know.
I'll pull it up. Just a moment.
I'm pretty sure I said enunciate.
Let's see. All right. Can everyone see that? I'm going to have to make it smaller so I can see the queue.
Okay. Right, I see. Right, so now, Amber, you have 2 minutes to speak to this amendment.
Chase has 2 minutes.
Yes.
Sorry, Chase, I'm sorry, Chase, you have 2, I've lost track. Chase, you have 2 minutes to speak to the amendment.
Thank you. Madam Chair, the proposed amendment aims to ensure that legislation properly submitted or referred to a committee under new business will remain eligible for consideration by the Senate at a future meeting. This amendment does not eliminate SEC's role in setting the agenda, but it restores balance by ensuring all senators retain a pathway to bring forward well-founded and timely proposals. It promotes the building of diverse coalitions, open deliberation, and reinforces the principle that the Senate's agenda should reflect the collective interest of its members, not just the views of the Executive Steering Committee. With 67 co-sponsors from across all 4 constituencies supporting this amendment, it is clear that many senators believe that this is a needed rule change. This amendment has had extensive discussion with the parliamentarians and the SEC over the academic term, and the only reason that I was able to bring forward this legislation to you today is because the University Senate was already slated to vote on a different set of rule amendments being brought forth by the SEC. Because my legislation fits within this narrow and specific motion, I was able to attach this amendment so the body would at least have the opportunity to view and debate the limits of SEC power on its merits. If not for this pre-existing legislative vehicle, which luckily happened to fit the specific issue, the amendment would not have been allowed to come before the body for debate due to the SEC blocking it from the agenda. Because of this, I urge senators to vote yes on this amendment to restore proper checks and balances on executive power within the University Senate. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Chase. And with that, we'll now be open for discussion on the amendment.
All right. Let me know if I have this right, but I think I have. First, Kevin went up to speak to this amendment.
Yeah. Thank you, Amber. My name is Kevin Wendt. I'm a PNA representative to the University Senate. I'm speaking against the adoption of this amendment to the rules. I could understand if members of the Senate Consultative Committee were improperly keeping items of importance from coming before the body, but we have to remember a few things. First, this is not a standard deliberative assembly. This is the University Senate, the primary assembly having 4 subordinate senates. Each subordinate senate representing an important population within our university has the freedom to identify, take up, consider, and adopt motions and resolutions. But new business without proper evaluation and deliberation generally should not come directly before the University Senate. It should be taken up in committees or subordinate senates themselves. But items adopted by these subordinate senates are not necessarily items of business appropriate for the whole of the University Senate. That's determined by the leadership of the subordinate senates. The maker of this motion to amend is a member of the SCC. By bringing this forward, it seems clear that they're unable to convince the other leadership that this issue should be taken up by the University Senate, representing the full population of the university. That's what the leadership is supposed to do. They vote on whether an item should be on the agenda. If one subordinate senate cannot convince the other senates that this should not be given full University Senate consideration, it shouldn't be considered, and more work needs to be done. That being said, there are some items that deserve to come before the Senate outright. If the rank and file members of the Senate think that it should be considered, there's already a mechanism for that within RONR. The motion to discharge a committee would bring the topic out of control of the SEC and back to the Assembly as unfinished business and not new business, and requires a 2/3 vote or a majority given previous notice. Either of those are completely reasonable approaches to pulling items out of the SCC and bringing them back into the University Senate. We should not be adopting custom, conflicting, and really, the way it's written, incomplete versions of rules when our existing rules already provide working options. Please vote no.
Next is Penny Edgell, who is pro on this amendment.
Thanks, Amber. Yes, Penny Edgell, CLA faculty senator. So I am in favor of this amendment, and one of the reasons is that it seems to me that it solves a problem that I have experienced before as being very frustrating as a faculty senator, which is often new business items are introduced very late in a meeting. Everyone's exhausted, people want to get home. There's not really much of a time to, often much time left to debate and discuss. And also we aren't provided any information in advance because it's new business. And this would be a mechanism. And so sometimes things don't reach the 2/3 threshold. But this would give a mechanism where that could be brought back in the future. And in the meantime, information could be provided to faculty senators ahead of the next meeting so that we could assess and consider if we want to take up that item. That seems to me to be completely reasonable, and it solves what I have perceived as a kind of roadblock to having the kind of time that I need to assess should an item be considered for the full, should an item be put on our agenda, debated, or should it not? So for that reason, I'm in favor of this amendment because I think it solves a concrete problem that I've experienced with how the Senate functions. Thanks.
We have time for one more question or comment.
Is that on this motion, or do we need to vote on this motion and then go to the
I think
main one?
On this motion.
Okay. Then next we have Cal Mergendahl, who is a student and pro.
Sorry for double dipping. As I do support this amendment for a couple of reasons. I think this will make this body more democratic. Again, we've just been talking about special sessions, and we've been having to have those because there have been times where popular and timely legislation has, for whatever reason, stalled or been blocked by the SEC. But once that legislation makes it to the floor in a special session, it passes by a pretty comfortable margin. I don't think that's the route that we should want most of our legislation to be taking, but it's good for us to have that sort of fail-safe for something that needs to be considered in a timely manner, isn't going to get it otherwise. Again, as I said earlier, special sessions are kind of a pain. We've got to draft, sign a petition, we need to schedule a meeting, write the agenda, all of that. This would allow us to essentially look at things that have historically required us to call a special session without having to go the trouble, block time out of our, take busy time out of our days to show up to the special session. And I think regardless of I think even if you're skeptical of if you support the changes to the special session amendment, even if you do support those changes, but you are still concerned about some of these representation matters, at least support this as a good counterbalance. I think some people in SEC don't necessarily see this as being the most necessary. This is a limitation on SEC's decision-making authority, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't really think there's any authority figure or any body within the Senate that I would personally, fully trust so much that I don't want any sort of recourse for reconsideration if the decisions that are being made aren't representative of the will of the body as a whole. I think this is a straightforward amendment. I think it's well written. And I think that provides a really good workaround. So for that, it has my support.
Thank you, Cal. And so with that, Amber, we are out of time for discussion. And if you can call the vote, I think first we're calling the vote on this amendment. Is that correct, right?
That is correct, yes.
So the question here is whether or not to proceed with the amendment put forth, not on the overall changes.
Okay, so this is a vote on whether to put the amendment into the larger package.
Amber, could you just clarify this is motion 2, an amendment to motion 2, correct?
Yes, it is an amendment to motion 2. 10 more seconds if you wish to vote. And last call. All right, with 103 ayes and 54 nays, that motion carries. It will be added. I don't know if I'll get it added before we actually have the vote, but I will put that in there and consider it part of the larger package. Should we proceed to the vote on the whole thing?
Yes, thank you, Amber. If we could now proceed to the vote, and are we voting amendment?
So
not
we
amendments.
should start with the amendments on the Constitution.
Right.
So we're starting with motion 1, which is the special meeting.
Right. And then the vote totals are different on each, depending on what we're voting on. So that should be made clear.
Excuse me, just for clarification, can you clarify what a yes or a no vote means when it comes to motion 1? Because there's been a lot of discussion of two separate things.
So, Amber, go ahead.
Sorry.
So can you take down the poll so that we can?
Oh, I didn't realize it was still sharing. Okay. Motion 1 is whether to pass the special session language that is proposed in the docket. I cannot share my screen and run a poll at the same time, unfortunately, so I can't put that up.
No, that's okay. That was the clarification I needed. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so here comes that poll. Ten more seconds if you wish to vote. And last call. With 81 ayes and 83 nays, that motion does not carry. Proceeding now to motion 2, which is the rest of the changes to the University Senate, Constitution, Bylaws, and Rules. Ten more seconds if you wish to vote. And last call. So with 114 ayes and 36 nays, the rules changes pass and nothing else. Proceeding to motion 3, this is the parliamentarian provision. And this vote is for Faculty Senate only, please.
I have a parliamentary inquiry.
Okay, Kevin, go ahead.
Was that accurate that only the rules were adopted just now and not bylaws changes? Is that what I heard right?
We didn't get to 125 for the bylaws. It was 114.
So the percentage was incorrect.
I'm not sure. I need to look at the numbers
Thank
while
you.
I'm not running another poll, but I will verify to make sure it was correct. 10 more seconds if you wish to vote. And last call. With 88 ayes and 16 noes, that motion carries. And proceeding to motion 4, which is the rest of the changes to the Faculty Senate, Constitution, Bylaws, and Rules. Again, this is for faculty senators only, please. 10 more seconds if you wish to vote. And a last call. 87 ayes and 19 nays. The bylaws and rules changes are approved. Faculty or constitutional amendments are not approved at this time.
All right, Amber, I think that concludes that component, correct?
Sure does.
Thank you. We'll move to item 14, concerns revisions to committee composition that will be brought for a vote in the fall and is presented today for information. I don't have who's presenting that listed here.
It's just information.
For information. Okay, excuse me. We were so involved in discussion and debate that I thought there was, we were going to have more. All right, nonetheless, item 15 is an FAQ document regarding the several initiatives around term faculty and P&A teaching staff, and is presented for information. Item 16 is an item from the Senate Archives and is presented for information. Item 17 concerns next year's Senate dates and is presented for information. Item 18 is old business, of which there is none. Item 18 is new business. Is there any new business? Seeing none, this concludes our meeting, and we are adjourned. The Faculty Senate will convene at 3:45 in 5 minutes. Thank you. Yep. Okay. All right, folks. Good afternoon. The meeting of the Faculty Senate is now called to order. Item 2 concerns administrative responses to the Faculty Senate actions and is presented for information. Item 3 is questions to the president. The link to get into the queue is in your docket and in the chat. Amber, please call on the first person.
Not seeing anyone in there yet, but we can give people a minute since we just restarted.
Any questions?
I am not seeing anybody in line.
Well, people do know how to find me in case you come up with questions later on.
I see someone in line, although I refreshed the wrong.
Oh, Tim, are you trying to?
Yeah, I thought I saw someone in line. Jeremiah.
Oh, it's the wrong cube, but that's fine. We can use that one.
There you go. Sorry.
Clicked on the wrong box, I guess.
That's all right.
We'll take it. Jeremiah, if I can ask everyone when you ask a question or comment during this session today, just maybe introduce yourself and tell me what school you're from, et cetera.
Absolutely. I'm Jeremiah Manns. I'm a faculty senator from CSE from the School of Physics and Astronomy. And this is almost maybe more of a question for the provost, but there isn't kind of a slot here for this question. So the Department of Justice just recently changed their handling of the digital accessibilities requirements, which of course has been a major effort across the campus for kind of all of this year. Will there be any guidance about what the what the impact of these changes will be for within the academic parts of the enterprise, given these changes, and whether how much resources we should be putting on this effort going forward, given the uncertainty in how things are going.
And Jeremiah, if you might just repeat, I'm sorry, I missed which changes that you're talking about.
So there were
to the accessibility ones.
Yeah,
yes.
Digital accessibility requirements, right?
Yes. And I think I can answer something and then perhaps I can call a friend with the provost. I do believe I saw that those were going to be extended.
That's correct. So my question was, is there going to be any policy or any guidance from the administration on what we should be doing given this extension? What is the attitude of the institution?
So we do need to be compliant. And so our instructions are going to be that people do need to continue to move ahead with making those changes to accessibility. This simply acknowledges the federal extension, I think acknowledges what everybody is feeling and certainly what we've been hearing, which is it's difficult to accomplish in the amount of time they suggest, but we still need to accomplish them. And I don't know, Provost Ritter, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so just amplifying what the president has said, we don't believe there will be any change in the requirement. It is simply a change in the timeline. So I don't necessarily expect that there would be any additional guidance. If there are particular questions or concerns, I would encourage you to reach out. I know this is a heavy lift, and I know it is a greater lift in particular areas, depending upon what it is that needs to be made accessible. But the only thing that has changed, as far as I'm aware, is the date by which we need to get it done.
Can I make 2 more sentences? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
So for myself and for some of my colleagues, the biggest trouble with this has been that there are resources that we have traditionally been able to provide to our students. So for example, we project our notes as we write them during class. And then we used to be able to provide those to our students, but that is no longer permitted. And so this this implication where we now have to provide less things to our students to support their learning is really troubling. So again, I'm not sure what possible guidance there may be in the future on this question, but it is concerning.
So I'm not an expert on digital accessibility, and I completely hear that frustration. Whether or not there's any kind of universal means of being able to make those kinds of materials accessible, I don't know, but I would think that that would be the kind of thing to look for.
Yeah, I'll just echo, I do hear the frustration, and yeah, in the need to be accessible, there appears to be trade-offs there, and we might not all agree with them. I think we're gonna have to figure out a way to be compliant, but I do feel, and I have heard and appreciate other people weighing in also on how difficult it is for this federal policy for us to move ahead and be compliant. So thank you for that. Any other questions?
There are no more questions in the queue.
Okay. Seeing no more questions, item 4 is action on the administrative policy on syllabus requirements. Is there any discussion? I don't see any discussion.
Nope.
With that, Amber, you can go ahead with the poll.
Okay.
Sorry, to intervene. I just put my name in the queue to speak about the syllabus policy, but I guess I wasn't fast enough, or it didn't get recognized.
Yeah, I don't see it showing up. Oh, I see you're in the discussion queue. Yeah, I can end poll and we can
end the poll and take discussion.
Yep.
So make sure that can you make sure the right discussion queue, I don't know where you're putting this, is it in the chat or something, Amber? People have it.
Yeah. We're going to be on the debate queue for the rest of the meeting because there's no more non-motion ones.
Okay. Eva?
Okay, thank you. I'm not against anything or in what's proposed, but what we're seeing is a series of discussions, basically, parallel to proposed amendments. And so I really am not entirely sure what we're voting on in this proposal. There's something about AI, about the use or the role of AI. There are comments on that. There's something about the workload statement, comments on that and where it's supposed to be located, and other things. And so it's just not clear to me what we would be voting on. What's the final document?
Sure. And Jessica Keeker-Grosjean, can you answer those questions?
Yes, thank you. So the vote is for the amendments to the policy. So there's the addition of having an AI statement in the syllabus. And then there is the addition of the undergraduate workload statement, which is currently part of another policy. So those are the two main things. And then just some edits for clarity on the ChatGPT statements now linked to the Gen AI statement on the Provost website.
So if I understand what you're saying clearly, what we're voting on is to require a statement in the syllabus about AI use.
Yes.
And B, to require a workload statement in the syllabus.
Yes.
Okay. What about the specification of where in the syllabus the workload statement should go?
The policy does not dictate that, just that a workload statement and an AI statement need to exist.
They need to be there. Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other discussion on this? Thank you, Jessica.
I think I see David Reddish in the queue.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we had time to look at and talk about the more general issues that Ava's bringing up, because we had a long discussion of this in the FCC about it, and I'm pleased that the AI statement does seem to provide advice, but I think that I would like more time to read what is being proposed in the AI statement before forcing it in. One of my main concerns is that faculty will be required to write what is essentially a legal statement about what is available AI or not. And I'm pleased that there now seem to be suggestions, but I haven't had time to go through these suggestions to see if they make sense to me. The workload, similarly, I'm not sure what the statement that needs to be in the syllabus is. Like there is, for example, an anti-harassment, anti-sexual harassment statement that there's text that we put in. I want to see what is the text for the workload stuff that we're supposed to put in. And so I'd like more time with this statement before I'm willing to vote for it. So those are my two concerns on it. Thank you.
Amber, can I ask, when were the statements provided for senators to review?
I put them in there when the docket went out. And then there were some permission issues that were resolved this morning. The clean copy was already available for everybody to see. There were some issues with people being able to see the markup.
So the clean copy has been available for how long?
A week and maybe a couple more days. I sent it last Tuesday.
Jessica, do you have the exact language for the workload statement?
Yeah, so that is actually a part of another policy, but I can provide those direct links. I'll do that in the chat if Jacqueline wants to post them publicly. We can also add that to the sample statements.
Okay. I'm just wondering if people saw them now, then they would be, that might answer David. I'm just trying to figure out a way to resolve your question. If you want to be able to see it, perhaps we could put it in the chat and see it. I don't know. I'm looking to the staff. Is that possible, as opposed to bringing it back?
If I may just intervene briefly, I am seeing the same marked up copy that I saw last week when I looked at everything in the agenda. So maybe the marked up copy is the clean copy, but anyway, I'm still seeing the same
Amber,
thing.
can you comment on that? Is the marked up copy the one people should be reviewing?
I have to look at there is a clean copy, which is linked under clean copy, and it has no comments in it that I can see, and that is what we are voting to approve.
Would it be helpful to put those two links in the chat?
She did.
Okay, good. Sorry, I can't see the chat from my perch. All right. Maybe I'll give people a moment to look at those. And then if there's no further discussion, we can move to poll.
I see a question in the in the queue, Jeremiah Mans.
All right, Jeremiah. Is that from before?
No, it's not from before. I just lost my my Zoom link. Okay. So looking over the policy that we're referring to in this, it's really kind of unclear what the faculty are being asked to do in this case. They're asked to provide a workload statement the statement is pretty clear that you have to provide this much work for this many credits. So the point is just to copy this statement into our syllabus. It's very I mean, because there's a section later in the list of what's required for a syllabus which says we need to refer to these policies, but this is a section which says we need to draft something, I guess.
Jessica, do you want to respond to that question?
Yeah, so the idea is that you are telling students that for this 3 credit class, you are expected to like 3 hours of instructional time and 6 hours of out of class time. For the majority of classes, that is a pretty standard way that the class time is broken out. In some classes, there is more instructional time than there is student workload, like for that ratio. So if that is the case for your class, that should be transparent in the syllabus.
Sure, I understand if we're away from this sort of well-defined core. I mean, I'm a little bit nervous about all of this because, of course, we don't want to be requiring a great deal more effort, than our credits. That's definitely important. But it does tend to give the students the sense that they can set their watch, and as soon as they get to the end of that time, regardless of whether they've been effective or not at using, for example, their homework and study time, that they should get a typical good grade. Having literally, just it feels like we're making kind of a contract that says if you work this much time, you should get that grade, and that is not something I would really want us to put into our syllabus.
Thanks, Jeremiah. I don't know, Jessica, do you want to respond to that before we?
I mean, this came up in FCC as well, and I think that the workload statement, so this policy is really about what needs to be in the syllabus. And so students should have an idea of ballpark, how much effort should they be putting into classes, like how can they budget their time? And obviously that is not something that is applicable to all students, but to, the policy on expected work time is for, to receive an average grade, this is the amount of time you should be spending in each part. So
thanks, Jessica. I know we're getting short on time here. I think the key word there is an average grade. I don't think it's a contract to get a particular grade. It's and the provost is telling me the same thing here, but to get an average grade. So I think we are out of time for debate and discussion, so we should move this to poll. Thank you for the thoughtful conversation. Amber, will you start the poll?
Ten more seconds if you wish to vote. And last call. With 70 ayes and 41 nays, that motion carries.
Thank you, Amber. Item 5 is approval of the Twin Cities slate of candidates for the FCC. I will invite Professor Jansa to explain the process by which these pairs were selected.
Thank you, President Cunningham. Amber, we have a brief slideshow. So my name is Sharon Jansa. I am the chair of the FCC nominating subcommittee. The nominating subcommittee consists of all FCC members except for the chair, vice chair, and faculty legislative liaisons, plus immediate past voting members of the FCC. And you can see the membership here. Amber, next slide. The task of the committee was to select nominees for 3 open seats. And according to our bylaws, the nominating subcommittee will nominate twice as many faculty candidates, so we needed to come up with a slate of 6 individuals. Our bylaws also specify that we can pair those candidates to improve representation across units. And our charge includes the charge that the FCC shall represent the faculty at large and not the individual campuses, institutes, etc. So Amber, next slide, please. Our process included first to determine the gaps in future representation on the FCC, and we determined that the College of Education and Human Development, the Carlson School, the Pharmacy School, School of Design, and the Arts and Humanities Division of CLA required representation. Some of these gaps will be filled by incoming ex officio chairs who are yet unconfirmed, but we concentrated on trying to fill the existing gaps. We sought nominations several ways. We sent an open call to the broader Twin Cities faculty, and we received a total of 29 nominations. Amber, next. The subcommittee then rated those nominees. We contacted nominees to be sure they were willing to serve, and we finalized our nominees and pairings in discussion and vote. So the pairs that we came up with to represent the College of Liberal Arts, we have Carl Flink, who will run with Travis Workman on that slate. From the School of Pharmacy, we have Elizabeth Ambrose and Pamela Jacobson, who have agreed to run for the College of Pharmacy. And then we have a cross-college pairing of the College of Education and Human Development from Jenny Ramsauer Winter, who will be paired with Helen Zhang. And so we submit these slate for vote, and here you can see the FCC representation next year with the regular members, the ex officio members, and hopefully one or three of those nominated members. Thanks, Amber.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or any nominations from the floor? Note, if there's nominations from the floor, we'll have an electronic vote after today's meeting to finalize the slate of candidates. Any discussion or questions, Amber?
Got to unmute myself. It looks like we have a question or comment from Penny Edgell.
Yes, hi, thanks. So my question is, you say that you assess people's qualifications. What constituted a qualification in your eyes, and how did you assess those? It's a serious question. How do you get from 29 to 6? What were the principles that you used?
It's a serious question, and it's a serious process. So very often folks will put in their nomination. If they are self-nominating, they will list reasons why they think they're qualified. If they're being nominated by somebody else, those people will very often list those qualifications as well. Now, as chair of the committee, I often look at individual faculty websites or CVs to see what their past experience with governance has been. And I assume that my committee members are doing similar due diligence.
So qualifications means past experience with governance.
Past experience with governance or leadership or other aspects of faculty life that might make them particularly useful and helpful members of the FCC.
Thank you, Sharon. Any other questions?
We have a question next from Tim Moore.
Thank you. I'm not able to recall other examples of when I've been asked to vote on a person to represent me that didn't have a description of some sort of why they're interested in the position, what they would intend to do if they were elected, those kinds of things. So I'm voting blind, and I'm not sure if I missed something. That didn't seem like there was anything linked in the materials.
Thanks for that question, Tim. Amber, it looks like you have an answer for that.
Yes, this is just to approve the slate. The actual vote, when it goes out to all Twin Cities senators, will have a statement from each person and their photo.
So to clarify, if people are voting yes here, then they'd be voting on this entire slate that you just put up?
Yep.
And then after that, you'd be getting more information.
After that, the people would get a vote by email to vote for one person out of each pair.
Wonderful. Thank you. Other questions?
One more question from Emily Pelton.
Hi, I'm Emily Pelton. I'm a faculty senator from CSE. My question is, when we're talking about people for FCC and who's eligible to participate, is it only tenured and tenure track faculty members, or are other people with faculty-ish titles eligible to be nominated and or serve?
Sharon or Amber?
Amber, I'm going to let you field that one.
Yes, according to the Constitution or bylaws, one of the two right now, only tenured and tenured track faculty are eligible. There have been some discussions about, possibly amending that going forward, but right now that's the way it is.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so we are out of time for questions. So Amber, can you move to the poll? And again, this is on the entire slate.
And this vote is for Twin Cities faculty delegation only. Ten more seconds if you wish to vote. It looks like everyone's probably pretty much done. So last call. With 100 ayes and 3 noes, that motion carries.
Thank you. Item 6 concerns approval for the recommended Senate officers and is presented for information. Item 7 is the action of the slate of faculty appointees to the Committee on Committees. Is there any discussion? Are you seeing any, is there any?
I don't believe there's anyone new in the queue for this item. Check one more time.
Give it a moment here. Any discussion on this? Okay. Seeing none, Amber, will you initiate the poll?
Five more seconds. And last call. With 100 ayes and 1 nay, that motion carries.
Thank you. Item 8 is an update from the Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs, Beth Lewis, on the task force she is leading regarding term faculty and instructional P&A. Beth, please go ahead.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you for having me. I know we presented 2 months ago, but I wanted to provide an update here on where things are at with the task force. Just a quick reminder, this is the membership. We've got a great group of individuals on this task force, a variety of job types, several campuses, and people from SCAFA to represent the different areas. We have a really good group, and I think we have some great momentum going forward. So I'm excited about what is to come. So the task force just started meeting this past January. We've done quite a bit of consultation with FCC, SCAFA, AF&T, TFABs, Faculty Senate, and also we'll go to PAC as well. We've met with several department chairs, associate deans of faculty affairs, and deans, and we're continuing to do that consultation process as well. Over the last couple of weeks, we've completed 7 focus groups that have included contract faculty, teaching specialists, and lecturers. We've had 59 participants total in those, and those have been across 7 colleges and 3 campuses as well. And it's been great. It's been great to hear from these employee groups and hear about the concerns and the challenges. And hopefully they found it sort of helpful to be able to express some of their concerns to us. So some of the things that were highlighted in the focus groups is that there was somewhat of a lack of clarity in some colleges about promotion. The criteria were not always clear, especially for those who are going up kind of for the first time in their in their department. So this is true for both lecturers and contract faculty. Development funds, that seemed to also be pretty inconsistent, but for the most part, it felt that the professional development funds were not adequate based on the feedback. There was some comments about unwritten service expectations, but at the same time, not being able to be involved in some service opportunities that they wanted to be involved in. And then administrative roles, both lecturers and contract faculty sometimes carry substantial administrative roles. such as director of labs, director of undergraduate studies, and so on. A couple of other things we heard was some concerns about low salary, and as well as sort of a lack of feeling of job security. Okay, so these are some potential next steps. We have not written our report yet. We just finished, we're still have a little bit left with consultation. We're done with the focus groups. So these are just tentative at this point based on sort of the charge and the consultation that we have so far. So our group is going to meet again to have a more definitive plan of what will go into the report. But what we anticipate that we'll discuss further is having obviously clear guidelines for promotion criteria. And I think the way to ensure that is to have them a requirement to be submitted to the provost office, similar to the promotion criteria that is submitted for tenure track faculty, in which we receive and review all of those in the provost office. We will work with colleges to ensure that adequate professional development opportunities are available, and speaking also with them about having clear guidelines for governance. If there are faculty who are teaching who are not on the tenure track, and they're in the first line with these students, there really should be voting rights for that related to curriculum issues, for example. Service participation, having it clearly outlined in a job description, and balancing burden and then a desire to engage as well. One of the other things that we heard about was working in the summer without compensation. So I think there'll be some work around that as well. This has come up multiple times with multiple year contracts, and we know that happens some of the time in contract faculty, lectures, not as much, but figuring out a way with human resources how we can make this work for all three employee groups. Making sure that annual reviews are happening, and they're not just based on SRT ratings, and more than that, and having some clear merit guidelines. And this one that's been talked about tremendously is having the 3 levels of promotion for lecturers and teaching specialists, just like we do for contract faculty. So I think some ongoing job appointment work is to continue to work determining appropriate use of job appointments and duties for contract faculty, lecturers, and teaching specialists. As I've said in a previous meeting, is we sometimes have lecturers and contract faculty who teach doing the exact same duties, with different levels of promotion and different pay scales. So we really need to take a look at this and get this figured out. But in the meantime, to continue to grant exceptions for teaching faculty appointments on a case-by-case basis. So for that contract faculty, continuing those exceptions until we get this figured out. So the task force will complete the report and submit to the provost in May, so next month, and then anticipating implementation of various recommendations in collaboration with governance groups, as we've been consulting so far and would continue to do so going forward. And that is all I have for, I'll stop sharing my screen for slides. I'm happy to take questions.
Just getting the discussion queue posted again. And it looks like our first, oh, that was from earlier, sorry. Our first question comment is from Eric Van Wyk.
Thanks, Amber. Yeah, I think I was in the wrong queue for a second. So
Can
thanks,
you take
Beth.
down could you stop share screen, please?
Oh, is it not? It looks like it's stopped in mine.
Oh, maybe it's you, Beth. Sorry. Thank you.
Oh, let's see here. Hold on. Yes, it is me. Let's see.
No
I'm trying to stop. It doesn't look like it's being shared in my view, but
there it goes.
Thank you.
Is it gone? Okay, good.
Yep.
There we go. I don't know what I did. I clicked and something happened. All right, that's better.
Thank you, Beth. Eric, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Beth. I think a lot of this looks really good, I think. So it to me, it seems like a couple things jumped out to me. One was shared governance work for contract and P&A folks, right? That part of the thing we've found on AF&T is when people don't have actual strong academic freedom protections, they feel like they can't fully participate in shared governance. So, that's something I think would be important. That has to be addressed. Since that's doesn't seem to be part of this task force, then I would hope that that's something the ones we'll talk about in a minute could actually get into, and so these folks could really fully participate in a meaningful way. I also thought your comment about term faculty and P&A folks having exactly the same responsibilities and the same work, right, gets to the point that we should really be classifying all faculty as faculty. So to me, it looks like this all flows nicely into what we'll talk about next. And I hope to see that can happen. So.
Yeah, and academic freedom did come up in our focus groups, and there was some questions about if it did feel like if it was infringed upon or didn't have it, what were the processes involved? And so I think that has to be clear in terms of what would that look like, and having some clarity on specific processes for addressing any infringements on academic freedom.
Yeah, and that's what's just missing now, right?
So yep. Next. Other comments or questions?
Oh, I'm just going to say there is no one, but someone just popped in. So next is Masato Yamamoto.
Yes, my question is how much of a uniformity you foresee between the departments in the school, or I'm in the clinical department and doing research, means that surgeons, the promotion criteria, and the researchers in the departments, the criteria, how we can, how much actually you foresee the uniformity of the criteria for promotion?
The uniformity for promotion of criteria, it would be similar to kind of how it's laid out now, where it is at the discretion of the colleges and the departments. So I don't think that there would be set complete uniformity.
I see.
In terms of yes. So I guess it would depend. We would have, obviously we have our overall 7-11 for all the faculty. So I would envision there'd be some overall central policy, and then within that it would get more specific between in the individual departments and colleges. We do have inconsistency across colleges in regards to and campuses too. In regards to the use of contract faculty who teach and lectures, we have some who have all contract faculty who teach and no lectures, and some who have all lectures and no contract faculty who teach. So we have that inconsistency as of right now. But
thank you.
Other questions for discussion?
I do not. Oh, Anup Johnny.
Hello. Hey, thank you, Beth. This is a great forward move. I'm representing CVANS. We have very successful teaching associate and assistant professors and full professors even. So my question is with regards to the promotion levels. I see that the 3 levels of promotion for lecturers and teaching specialists. So would it be called assistant lecturer, associate lecturer, full lecturer, assistant associate, and full teaching specialist? Would that be the promotion levels that you're envisioning? Or yeah, that's my question.
We haven't come to a title yet. When we have nothing else to talk about in our office, we'll start brainstorming potential titles. I think that is the tricky part, is what is that third title going to look like? And at this point, I don't actually know. We would have to. We've looked at other Big Ten schools, and it varies quite a bit. Principal lecturer, but then sometimes people think senior lecturer is higher than principal lecturer. So it's definitely something we'll look at our Big Ten peers and get some feedback on, for sure, from governance in terms of what that third title should be. But that's a great question.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent work.
Thank you. Any further discussion, Amber?
Every time I'm about to say no, someone pops in. Jerry Cohen is next.
So Beth, was interesting, the coordination, but the thing that seems to be missing from this picture is an overall view of where you see the University of Minnesota being relative to these types of positions. because you've detailed in very specific terms what needs to be improved. But the overall question is, what kind of university do we want to be? When I read that 54% of our students are being taught primarily by non-tenure track faculty during their undergraduate years, when I see that 80% of the medical school is non-tenure track faculty, the real question I have is, as a university, what is it that we want to be? How do you organize it? And the academic freedom issue is predominant because if you're a medical school faculty member, you can't tell people to vaccinate their kids for measles these days without running the risk of having someone upset with you. And so I just kind of wanted to ask, because you're in the provost office, so I want big picture. What does the provost office think this campus ought to look like 5 years from now relative to how we teach our students, how we do research, how we do our clinical medicine?
Jerry, thank you for the question. I'm going to say something and then I'm actually going to ask the provost, since you're asking a question about the provost office, to answer. The first thing I'm going to say is we recently examined over the last, I think, 15 years, the percentage of tenured faculty compared to contract, compared to the other types of faculty or teaching across the campuses. And it really has not changed very much over that sort of number of years. And we looked at it compared to our peers. And actually, we were completely in line with our other Big Ten peers. So I just think that might be helpful information for you, which is we're operating very much like our other big universities. And that way that we've been operating has been very similar for a very long time now. But with that, I'll let the provost answer the question.
So I also appreciate the question. So I do think that the answer may be a bit different, both by campus and by school and college, right? So the one category on the Twin Cities campus that has grown is clinical faculty in the health sciences. And this is, of course, also quite typical of other universities that have large health sciences. And in particular, it's the medical school that has been the place where a lot of that growth has happened. It's been actually pretty stable in some of the other health sciences. I think for our campus, a strong predominant commitment to tenure track faculty needs to always remain a core value. It is central to our identity. It is central to the unique and distinctive contributions that we make as a university. I also think we need to value, appreciate, and support career paths, governance rights, professional development opportunities for the contract faculty and lecturers and teaching specialists who are contributing in very important ways to our mission. And I would also say that it's important to remember that there is and there should be an annual reporting function, of course, to the AF&T committee about some of these issues so that we make sure we're examining it and considering any areas where there are concerns.
Yeah, thank you to the provost for that. I do think it's important to note some of those broad numbers that get reported are not accounting for the fact that the physician group clinically, as medical practice has changed over time, is a group that is growing all over the country with clinical tract and not with tenure, but that's not necessarily representative of the issues that are more core to the rest of our academics. So it's really important to look at it specifically and to not overly generalize.
I appreciate your answers. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. One more question.
All right. There is no one else in the queue at this time.
There you go. We line up beautifully. With that, thank you. Item 9 concerns the recommendations of the AF&T Task Force on Academic Freedom Protections for Non-Tenure Track Faculty. Professor Eric Van Wyck will introduce this item. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I will share my screen here. hopefully everyone sees that all right. So
Not yet.
Here we go. Now.
Thank you.
Let me get this stuff out of there. All right, yeah. Hi, everyone. So, as you know, I'm Eric Gunwyke. I'm AF&T chair, and I'm here with Gopal Nadathur, who's chair of this task force that has brought these recommendations, right? And so these recommendations have important underlying principles that all faculty should be recognized as faculty, right? And so that also is one of the important things I think we have to sort of think about here. The other part of this is that term faculty and librarians should have robust academic freedom protections, right? And so protections are the key word here, right? Saying that people have academic freedom isn't enough. They need due process protections. The vote today is to sort of start this process, right? To take the first concrete steps in this work. That's important. We should start now and not delay, and we should start now so that we don't have to work in a hasty manner, right? But we should get going. All right. So what's in the motion, right? The motion is to create these two task forces, the Faculty Reclassification Task Force and this Policies Task Force, right? Both of these will need to work closely with the administration for us to have any good outcomes in the end, right? And so this cooperation is in the form of the Provost's office choosing 1/3 of the members of both of these task forces. AF&T and SCAFA would be responsible for the others. Right, and the aim is to create these due process mechanisms for librarians and faculty, and for faculty that begins by giving them genuine faculty status, right? It's something that not all faculty have at this point. We expect there to be quite a bit of synergy between the principles and the practical considerations that have to be made, right? And these task forces are only going to make plans, and those plans need to then be approved by the Faculty Senate before we move on with them. The first one is the Reclassification Task Force. And its job is to first define faculty in a way that's not circular as it's done now, right? The first crack at this would be to include everyone who's eligible for the Faculty Senate as someone who should be recognized as faculty. Right? The reclassification plan then has to be developed, right? This needs to get us into compliance with the tenure code. That's something we're not into compliance with right now. Right, so this may involve moving some folks from P&A into the proper notion of faculty, right? We may need to rethink some of the conditions under which term appointments are permitted. So this may involve changes to the actual tenure code to allow these term appointments for teaching roles to be allowed, right? So there are these financial and enrollment tuition realities that we have to pay attention to, right? It's important though that these changes don't be made in haste. We end up with negative consequences if we crack open the tenure code and do something in a too quick manner. Pathways for tenure for some are the appropriate non-tenure track positions, right? Via 712 changes so that the work they're already doing is work that counts towards fulfilling what is required for tenure. This needs to be done so that we do not mess with people's reasonable expectations that are already here. Right, and as we've seen earlier, I think a lot of the Provost Task Force work will meld nicely into the work of this task force. Right, and here we're sort of, again, generating the general principles. The details have to be sorted out. The principles were done already. We want to agree to those, and the details are taken care of in this task. The second one, this Policies Task Force, right, is to go about the process.
Eric, I just want to give you a 1-minute warning here.
Oh, thank you. So this one would develop the actual policies for librarians and term faculty. So they have actual protections. To conclude, right, this is really the work of Faculty Senate and its committees, right? The quote here is from the Faculty Senate Constitution, that these are the sort of things that faculty need to deal with. I'm quite optimistic because there's a lot of agreement between what AF&T Task Force report suggests and what the Provost's past comments have indicated. So I think there's a lot of work we can do together on this. I think there's a lot of opportunities here to solve some important problems. And so today, if we accept these principles that all faculty should be recognized as such and they should have robust academic freedom protections, we can begin now to get on with this work and do it in a timely way, but in a deliberate way to avoid unintended consequences. Right. So we've heard a lot of good questions from people over the last few months about this, and a lot of those questions are ones that get answered by what comes next in these task forces.
Thanks,
That's
Eric.
where the details happen. So I'm eager to hear questions and your comments. So I may be right on time.
Right on time. If you can take down your slides there, we can have a discussion.
All right. First in the queue is Tony Abst. Sorry, you're P&A, so would somebody be willing to yield their time?
I'm happy to yield
I
my time.
yield.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. My name is Tony Apps. I'm the chair for the P&A Senate for this year. I wanted to follow up because I presented at the last meeting where this was discussed, and a few folks reached out to me to say, well, is P&A endorsing the report and the recommendations or not? We pointed out a few concerns we had, but that was sort of it. We did conduct a sort of unofficial vote at following our last Senate meeting. We didn't have enough responses to meet quorum, so folks are a little bit divided on this, and you'll see that in the results. To the question of, do you recommend the recommendations put forth in the report? 47% said yes, 42% said no, and then the rest abstained. But our second question was, given the option, would you wait to make a decision until you've seen the work being done by the Provost Task Force? And 69% of our members said yes to that. So for the time being, the biggest concern is if the recommendations don't align, that we'll have two parallel processes running that will further muddy this space. So we agree this work needs to be done, especially for those P&A who have been advocating for reclassification for a long time. However, we think the work of both groups is really critical to seeing the issue fully. And speaking to Eric's points, we want to avoid those negative unintended consequences of the faculty reclassification task force moving forward without fully considering the recommendations from the Provost Task Force, which are going to start coming out next month. So while I realize this isn't strictly pro, it is a little closer to pro than con. The short-term ask would be that a positive vote to support the recommendations and would support the recommendations in this report, but the actual work of the task force would be contingent upon the Provost Task Force recommendations. Thank you.
Next in the queue is Tim Johnson.
Thank you, Amber. I will be quick with this. I actually probably come down along where Tony just came down. So I'm not necessarily con on this proposal, but I would argue and I would advocate very strongly that this resolution be tabled for the time being. And that almost seems, although I will not put words in her mouth, what Tony suggests the P&A Senate was maybe leaning towards. But again, that may not be what you were suggesting, Tony. I think we need to let the Provost Task Force finish up its work with Beth and Ola. Their recommendations come forth, their implementation come forth. And then if the faculty senate believes that more needs to be done, then we come back and we revisit this issue another time. But we really don't want to have competing task forces, even if there is synergy, and Eric suggests there is synergy. I really, really hope that this Senate will vote to table this for the time being and come back to it after we see the results of what Beth and Ola are trying to accomplish. Thank you very much.
Next is Emily Pelton, who has a question.
Hello, I am Emily Pelton. I'm faculty senator from CSE. I have two questions actually. The first, based on your slides, can you just explain when you say making sure that all faculty have faculty status, what you mean by faculty status? And then my second question is, how long is long-term when you talk about not wanting to disrupt the experiences of people who have been here long-term?
Yeah, thanks, Emily. So what we mean by faculty status, right? That is then people who are under the Board of Regents tenure policy. So that's the policy for tenure track, but also all these term and contract faculty. So the policy is a little bit misnamed, right? And that's where all these academic freedom protections lie, right? They're missing for term faculty, and those should be put in. But being recognized as faculty properly is the thing that should be done, right? That's where in the P&A category, you're not technically faculty, right? Long term, right? We know people who've been here 10, 20 years as senior lecturers, right? And nothing should happen that disrupts their life in a way that sort of discounts all the work they've done or changes their work experience in a way. It should be something that improves their life by giving them the proper title and designation, and then the academic freedom protection so they can fully participate in things like governance and freedom in the classroom to do what they need to do. And that may be in a tenure role, but it may also be a term faculty role.
Thanks.
Next in the queue is Emma Malls.
Hi, thank you. Faculty Senator from the Libraries, and I'm actually going to yield my time to my colleague, Danya Liba.
So, we're about out of time for this conversation, right?
Oh, no, we have a little.
We have 20 minutes.
We've got a little bit more time, but should we pause, take the next question, and then I think, Tim, did you make a motion, or were you about to make a motion?
I'm trying to understand. That's right. So Tim, you were asking if there was a motion to table the conversation.
That's what we were trying to figure out.
No, I did not ask if there was a motion.
I did not make that motion.
Okay, you were just asking to sort of, I understand now, thank you.
Can make that motion.
But what I would say, and I did not mean to jump back in line, I apologize. There are no other con speakers. I will be quiet right now. I will put my name back in the queue, and I will be making that motion.
Okay. Understood. Thanks, Tim.
Can I go ahead now?
Yes, thank you, Danya.
Yeah, and if we could start the time fresh.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Danya Liba. I'm an associate librarian. I've been at the university since 2018. To clarify, just to speak to the librarians like me are classified as faculty like P&A with continuous appointment, which is defined as parallel to tenure by the university. However, we sit outside the purview of the tenure code, and instead we're covered solely by P&A policies. So first, I do want to address concerns I've heard in other meetings that librarians and other P&A employees were not consulted about these recommendations or not consulted fully. This is simply not true. I've sat on the AF&T committee since 2020, and more importantly, I was a member of the task force that generated these recommendations. So in that role, I attended hours of meetings, I exchanged many emails with the chair, and represented the concerns of librarians to this task force. I also engaged in consultation with other librarians along the way. And second, I want to speak to why I think taking timely action on these recommendations is important and justified. So as established in the task force report, librarians' protections are less secure than tenure-line faculty and less secure than they need to be to fulfill the missions of the university that we help advance. And this is a time when libraries and librarians are under tremendous pressure, like right at this moment. So our need for strong and codified academic freedom protections is really critical, and again, it's timely. And just as it was important for librarians to be at the table when these recommendations were developed, we believe it's really essential that the task forces that are addressing these issues are faculty and librarian led, that we are included. So I urge senators to vote yes. Thank you.
Next, I'm going to go to Penny Edgell, who has a question.
Thank you. Penny Edgell, CLA Faculty Senator. Question for Eric about the logic of bringing this as a motion to approve both task forces at once versus allowing us to vote on the two proposed task forces separately. It seems like there is a general perception, and I'd like you to address this as well, that one of the proposed task forces from AF&T overlaps substantively and substantially with what the provost task force is already doing. The other one doesn't. The other one is different and is focused primarily on policy and in specific policy around this issue of academic freedom protections. So I'm wondering about the decision to bring them both. And I will be honest, I didn't think really about this before this meeting. I don't have a motion prepared from the floor to, as a friendly amendment, a friendly motion to split the vote and vote on these separately. But I will simply propose in the course of debate that seems to me the direction the conversation is going, and that might be a good thing to consider.
Thanks, Penny. It's a fair question. The bottom line is that these are all pieces of a whole, right? That the bottom line is that faculty should be recognized as faculties. That requires some reclassification. The other part is if you do that, right, they need, and they're done as term faculty, they need proper protections, right? And that's the second one. So you can't only do the second one because you're not fixing the other problem that is the violations that exist in the tenure code now, right? So they really do work together. They have to both be done at the same time, right? I don't believe that there's a lot of overlap with the provost task force, right? I've heard this from faculty members on the provost task force that based on all their conversations, what they're doing is important and will align with what I imagine would come out of some of that reclassification work. But there's a lot more happening in the reclassification. A lot more important work has to be done there. And that's not at all what the provost task force seems to be getting into. So I think they line up nicely, but they're not like doing the same thing in any real way. This is a bigger problem. So.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to let the provost comment on that.
Yeah, on the question of overlap or lack of overlap, I do think, as has been said, there are some shared goals. I think the question.
Point of order. Point of order. We're in debate, and this is running down the clock, and we should move through the line of speakers who are debating.
So as the chair, I'm allowed to call on the provost, and then we'll get back to the debate. Thank you very much. Let the provost finish.
Try to be very succinct. Just speaking to the question that was just raised. I do think the question about due process and academic freedom for librarians is important and is not currently addressed in the work that is being done by the task force that's being led by Beth Lewis. I believe that the reclassification is not necessarily necessary in order to achieve all of the things that we outlined in terms of protections, governance rights, multi-year contracts, and academic freedom guarantees for faculty. So that, I think, is one of the places of significant difference.
Thank you. Next comment or question, Amber.
Next in the queue is Angie Peltier.
Hello, again, I work in extension in one of these faculty-like positions, and I would move that we can continue with Eric's plan. I think that any additional delay means that we're going to have more turnover. We are desperate for representation as far as academic freedom is concerned right now, seeing as we work in our right to work state, even pushing to express your academic freedom can put you at risk. And so I have to say, I'm not really clear why, with the work that the Academic Freedom and Tenure Committee, all the work that they did to create this report, and it sounds like it was over years, why the Provost Task Force was stood up at all. I guess I'm not really clear on that. And I feel very seen by the AF&T committee, and don't delay any longer. Please don't delay and vote
Angie,
yes,
I heard
please.
a question there on why the committee was stood up. Is that something that?
To implement the recommendations.
Another point of order.
So Terry, as the chair, when a member asks a question, I'm allowed to give somebody the opportunity to answer it in the same way that I gave Eric the opportunity to answer questions to him.
Debate is pro-con question. She came up as pro.
I understand. She came up as pro. She asked a question, so I allowed the provost to answer it. So we're doing pro and con. We heard a pro? Are we now going to con, Amber? Or are we going is there just a run through the list? What's next?
Well, I accidentally skipped somebody, so let's go to Melissa Licht next, and then we'll take con after that.
Thank you. Melissa?
Hi, thank you. I'm Melissa Light, and I teach in the English department as a senior lecturer. I'm here today as an alternate for Bruce Braun. I wanted to give a short description of my role to show why I feel like we need these task forces. And I understand that that the provost office is also working on this, but as I see it, coming at the work from multiple angles is going to yield the most perspective on these issues and bring us to the best results. So I hope that these task forces will be approved today and that we can move forward. So I've been working in the English department categorized as staff since 2011. Despite the high quality of my work, it took until 2024 for me to get promoted from lecturer to senior lecturer. And I'm still categorized as staff, so still don't have full academic freedom protections. I teach over 160 students each year and serve my department in multiple roles, including a university-wide roles where I serve as a member of the faculty advisory board to the Native American Medicine Garden and special student-centered service as a co-faculty advisor to a living laboratory student project. I often teach on politically sensitive topics, and I'm increasingly concerned about whether I can do so without risking my position. I believe that going forward, along with many of my faculty-like P&A colleagues, I've earned the position of faculty. But even from the beginning of my work here, I should have been afforded academic freedom protections and the dignity of knowing that I could continue in my position for more than the next 10 months. Even as I won a Morris Alumni Distinguished Teaching Award this spring, I'm not secure in my future role here at the university or free from concerns about reprisals. The recommendations for these task forces are sound, and a faculty-led initiative should be central in pursuing them. It's time to do this work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Amber?
All right, next in the queue for con is Tim Johnson.
So two things. The first is we should recognize the idea that the task force recommendations do not set up the the AF&T task recommendations do not set up the task forces. It just calls for them. They would need to still be set up through proper governance channels. So that's one point. The second is I am going to make a motion to table this because we really do need to have the provost task force finish its work and see what happens with those recommendations, which Beth talked about at the point of actually implementing them. I will also make this clear as I make the motion. Provost has made it clear again and again that she wants to protect academic freedom. And if we go back and look at the creation, for instance, of the P&A category, it was absolutely clear, and Perry's holding on to these documents, that these folks were not granted, but it was clear that they had academic freedom. And it was in black and white in the creation of that job category. I fundamentally believe that. And I really do, in the end, believe that we need to make sure that the Provost Task Force finishes its job. So as I said, I make a motion to table this recommendation, and I hope that's what we will vote for.
So that I hear a motion to table, and is that to table for
it needs to be clear.
Needs to be clear the time that you're asking it to be tabled for, and then we would need a second.
So table it until the next Senate calendar year, which does not begin. The first Senate meeting would be in September, I suppose.
Is there a second?
Can we, as a friendly amendment, Tim, can we say that table until the first Senate meeting after the provost report comes out?
I would appreciate that, David.
So with that amendment, I would second it.
Okay. So then we have a motion to table and a second. So I believe we have a poll.
No, point of order. This is a debatable motion according to section of the
Yes, you're correct, Terry. I'm consulting with the parliamentarian. Thank you. So let me finish there. So it's a debatable
motion, so they can debate until we run out of time.
Okay, so you can.
Then we need to take a vote.
Continue to debate the motion until we run out of time, which is in 6 minutes from now, and then we're going to take a vote on the motion.
I'm not seeing anyone in the queue yet who's been added after this motion was made.
Amber, I think people are confused because there's a new queue, right? And so everybody who was in the old debate queue, if you want to say something, you need to.
No.
We're gonna
I'm
make a
looking at the
debate?
timestamp. They can just go in the same queue, and anyone who was I'm tracking. Okay, so first is Kevin Wendt. He's PNA, not a member, so he needs time yielded.
Yes.
Kevin, go ahead.
I yield.
Go ahead, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you. I would strongly advise against tabling or postponing definitely this motion to the next regular meeting. The Provost's office was already tasked with doing things and instead has spent months rehashing the same ideas that we've already seen in various task forces and working groups and reports already. The slides that you already saw were already very well familiar to the members of TFAPs and other committees that have been working on these issues. The Provost's office is intentionally going slow, which is sometimes good, but in this case, it's going to be the administration's idea to drag this out as long as possible, because the longer that they can take advantage of PNA faculty, the better in terms of financials and being able to use these people. So the AF&T task force report can work alongside it and then incorporate provost feedback as it comes in, but this should be a faculty-oriented approach, not an administrative approach, because they have two different perspectives. So delaying is not in the best interest of this body. Thanks.
Kevin, I just have to say, I and the provost are so sorry that you feel that way. I think the point of this is actually to move as quickly as possible to try to get changes ahead. I understand you feel that way, and I respect that view. I'm very sorry that you feel that way, because that is by no means the intent of either the provost office or my administration. Next comment or debate.
Next up is Eric Van Wyk with a question.
I guess I'm con for this. Sorry. Yeah, I think now is the time to move, right? What we heard from Beth was pretty clear. There was nothing in there about academic freedom protections. Their report comes out in May.
Not true.
Right. And so that's where we can then move, right? It was the charge of the task force had nothing about academic freedom. And if they are drifting into new space, right, then that's a problem. And so what's going to happen out of that task force, I think, is some good ideas about long-term contracts, things of that nature, right? That fits exactly into what the reclassification task force would do, right? Since their report is due in May, it's right on schedule for AF&T's task force to pick it up. It's April 23rd, right? They're not going to start working tomorrow. They're going to start working soon, but after the provost task force has produced their report. So delay is a mistake for multiple reasons. So.
Thank you, Eric. Next comment.
Next is Joshua Braverman, who needs time yielded.
I will yield time.
Joshua.
Okay, yeah. I would speak in pro of this motion to delay. I am obviously part of the DPAC and was involved in the discussions about how PNA wanted to approach this. As Tony mentioned, and kind of going off of what Tony said, there was a strong interest in PNA to understand better what this report was going to look like in May. And even after hearing everything we've heard today, I still feel fairly strongly that to put it in maybe I will speak for myself, and I don't want to necessarily betray the confidences of anyone else unpack. Shared governance is advisatory in many cases, and shared governance is not the ones implementing it. And I think that there is so much discussion already on this topic that I think it's certainly been well fleshed out and a lot of shared. And I think just with how close it is between the two happening. I can understand sort of what Eric said and how, there's a flip side of it. They're so close that it's practically not overlapping. I would certainly interpret that a little bit differently to say that it is in a way where shared governance is not the ones implementing it. Any changes made in policy and procedures is being made by the university administration. So I would much more prefer to, now that there's motion on both sides, kind of having this be less parallel, even if it's parallel in different issues, which everything's connected in a way. I would certainly prefer that there be a more shared view of determination over the summer, what is being handled and discussed by the provost task force, and what is being discussed by shared governance that can kind of come back together. There's some good models that are happening around data governance with the university, with the virtual teams, that I would think would be helpful.
Thank you, Josh. I think I'm going to ask the provost just to comment on Eric, your something you said, just in case I think there might be some confusion and it's worth a clarification. Then we need to vote because of time. Yeah.
Just to very quickly clarify once again, as I have said in multiple settings again and again, there is a commitment here in the work that we're doing in the provost's office to clarify the commitment to academic freedom, including academic due process rights. I am sorry to hear that Kevin Wendt feels like there's a delay. I've been in this office for 9 months. I have worked to achieve and strengthen rights for career non-tenure track faculty at every institution I've been at. That's what we're working to do now.
So with that, we are at time and we will be moving on to the vote.
I move to extend time.
Second.
I second.
Second.
I think many of us are going to have to leave. So,
and we'll have to have a special session because there are a lot of people in the queue. Many people have not had a chance to speak. This is an important question, and we need to enable full discussion without interruptions from the chair.
Yeah, and point of order, I think that Jerry Cohen is here. He's the vice chair. He can step in if the president has to leave.
So we should take the motion to extend the time.
Take the motion to extend the time. How long is the proposal for to extend the time?
20 minutes.
A second.
So Amber needs to run a poll.
And there's a second for that. So now we'll take a vote on whether we're going to extend the time for 20 minutes.
Five more seconds if you wish to vote. And last call. Okay, looks like that passes. I'm gonna have to leave, so I'm gonna put my.
Amber, could you show the results? Thanks. Okay.
Is there somebody in Amber's who can?
Yep. Lori will be taking over for me.
All right, so we'll continue on. So, and I think to Terry's point, I continue to have prerogative as chair. However, in the same way that I let Eric answer questions, I let other people answer questions when it's appropriate, and that is indeed the role of the chair. Next question, please.
All right. Are we debating still the motion, or are we?
We are still debating the motion that was brought up by Tim and seconded, and that is the motion we're debating currently.
Okay, next is Molly Dingle.
Hi. I would encourage to vote against this motion. We have a large number of lecturers and student teaching specialists at UMR. I'm a UMR representative. And one of the things that has been conveyed to me is frustration with the slowness of the process. And I understand that some of this is just that the wheels of change in an institution like ours move slowly. But I think that we're in a place where the sooner that we can get academic protections for our teachers, the better. And so waiting does not make sense and isn't in line with that. I understand that the provost is committed to academic freedom, but the recommendations that were presented today don't really get at that in the way that I think that these task force are intended to do. And so I would encourage voting against tabling and voting for the creation of these task force. Thanks.
Next comment.
I think I was next, but.
Amber, who is next in the
Yeah,
queue?
sorry, we're trying to sort out behind the scenes who's going to do what when I leave. Next is Anna Mosser.
Yeah, I would encourage not voting to table the discussion. And I'm a member of the task force, and so I question the premise to table it altogether. I don't see the provost task force and the two AF&T task force being in conflict with each other. I think that they can work in concert with each other, and there are different goals and different charges to the different task forces. That's it.
Thank you. Amber, do you need to hand off to someone else? I want to respect your time.
Yes, I'm working on it. We'll get it done on the back end.
Okay.
Next is Jerry Cohen.
Hi, Jerry Cohen. I'm vice chair of the University and Faculty Senate, and a faculty member in CFANS. I'm kind of appalled that the leadership of the FCC would actually vote to table this. This is normal order. Normal order of the Senate is to bring things to a Senate committee. The Senate committee in this case then formed a working group to produce this report. I was on that. That was almost 2.5 years ago that I was first asked to be on it. And it went then back to the AF&T. The AF&T took it to the FCC. They then brought it to the Senate. This is normal order. It has no business being tabled because it came up through the process, the normal process. It's time to do it. The provost can do whatever the provost needs to do. I think it's perfectly fine that she do whatever she like. Our role is to advise the administration and how the faculty feels. Our advice and our commitment to that advice no way interferes with the kind of advice she can get from her own appointed committees. So I don't think that it's a problem. The idea that the provost would be unadvised by this, well, Ole Graham was on the committee with us. I like him personally, and we had a good time on this committee. And I think that the report actually reflects input from a wide variety of interests and actually is a very good report. I'm quite pleased with the way it came out. And so I don't see any reason within faculty governance that this is something that should be tabled, nor has any reason to be tabled. Thanks.
So now we've had 4 con speakers in a row.
4 con speakers in a row.
Can I call the question to table?
You could ask if there's any objection.
Second.
Yeah, so is there any objection in moving to the vote?
Object.
On the motion to table.
On the motion to table.
Oh, call the question to table? Okay, I'm fine with that.
So that means if there's no objection to moving to the vote, we could move to the vote on the question to table.
Right. So that was where I was going. So is there any objection to call the vote on the motion to table? Okay, so let's call the vote on the motion on whether or not to table the motion to delay the task force
report until
after the first meeting after the provost task force.
It requires a majority vote.
Amber, can you initiate a a vote for that, we need a majority.
Yes, Lori, there should be one set up. I can't do it now that she's host. There we go.
All right, just a few more seconds. All right, the motion to table does not pass. There are 10 minutes left for the extension of this meeting.
Okay.
Okay, but they're probably ready to take the vote then.
Right, so are we ready to take the vote on Eric's proposal for the recommendations of the AF&T task force?
We have 10 more minutes, right?
Yeah.
Then we vote.
We have 10 more minutes. There's many people in the queue who have not yet spoken.
So it sounds like we're not ready to take a motion to take a vote on that, so we can continue speaking.
So on the main motion.
On the main motion.
Okay, I think I'm taking over for Amber. So I believe next we have Ava Von Dassau, Pro.
Thank you. There is quite a lot to address here. I was a member of the task force myself, and I would like to begin by correcting the implication in the provost's report at the start of the University Senate meeting that the task force report would force all P&A faculty-like employees onto the tenure track. That is not true. That is not what the task force recommends. But let me say, first of all, that I speak as a tenured member of the faculty, and I am here to say liberty should not be a privilege of rank or appointment type. I want my colleagues who lack the privilege of tenure to have the same protections for their academic freedom that I do. That means when they teach courses, they must be free to decide what and how to teach. When they do research, they must have the like autonomy for that. They must enjoy freedom of expression in their creative activities. Likewise, when they engage with the public and when they engage in university governance. So if my colleagues' academic freedom is curtailed because they lack those protections, so is mine. Here's how. If in this very body some fear to speak their mind, I can't be informed by their views. If they're not free to communicate in public, the public, as well as the campus, is deprived of their knowledge. If their research or creative activity is constrained by administrative or political dictates, the arts and the sciences are impoverished. And to the extent that my fellow instructors are not free to bring to bear on their teaching all of their knowledge, to that extent, students are deprived of the education they have come here for. If my colleagues are pressured to inflate grades because their continued employment is contingent on high SRT ratings, that pressure affects me too. Enrollment follows easy grades.
Thank you, Ava. We're at time. Next comment.
Next we have Nathaniel Mills, Pro.
I'm going to yield my time to Charlotte Garden, faculty in the law school.
Great, thank you. Hi, my name is Charlotte Garden. I'm a professor at the law school. I served on the AF&T task force in 2024. I'm now serving on the provost task force. I support the proposal to form these task force for sort of three related reasons. First, knowing the work of the AF&T task force and the provost task force, I see the perspective of the task force that are the subject of this motion to be complementary to and compatible with the ongoing work of the provost task force. I think the discussion of the previous agenda item reflected that the provost task force has a somewhat different charge and focus, though that charge can at times intersect with the potential work of the proposed task forces. Second, any change related to faculty status, and especially one that could relate to academic freedom and its procedural protections, will at some point require a robust shared governance process. And the creation of these task forces now seems like an important and proactive step to lay the groundwork for that process to take place. Waiting strikes me as increasing the risk of ending up on a reactive footing at some point down the road. Last, the creation of faculty-led task forces that are accountable to the Senate and that would presumably also have some points of contact with the Provost's task force. Strike me as being useful to help avoid the kinds of problems, things like information vacuums that can be harmful to and erode effective shared governance over time, trust between faculty in all categories and administration. Thank you.
Are there any cons?
I'm not seeing any cons. The rest are pro and possibly one question.
Right. If we have all pros, I'll ask again, are we ready to take a vote? Any objection to taking a vote? We have no more cons, only pros.
I think if people want to speak, they're in the queue. We extended time, let them talk. I think there's 2 minutes for the presenter at the end to wrap things up before the vote, and then we could do it. So
we would need to move quickly then.
Objection to taking a vote. All right. Next speaker.
Next, we have Shannon Waters, pro.
Thank you. I'm a teaching faculty in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, and I support fully the AF&T's recommendation, the motion, as both a teaching professor and a contract term faculty. Academic freedom and due process are important to me. Teaching and participating fully in governance without fear of losing my job for a non-performance reason is a real concern for those in my type of role and those performing faculty-like work. By fostering and supporting academic freedom and due process, the University of Minnesota will respect all faculty at the University of Minnesota. We cannot have hollow assurances that academic freedom and due process is important when we are seeing the degrading of academic freedoms in the academy across the United States. We need concrete policies stating this. I know this will ensure our students are provided an environment committed to their learning and one in which it allows for open dialogue about very difficult and important issues that are important to all of us in all of our disciplines. Just as a computer scientist does not mean that I do not talk about difficult issues. And I will be honest, I do not believe right now that in any way, shape, or form am I protected by mere statements of we support you. I need it to be more than just statements. Thank you.
Do we have time for one more?
We have time for one more.
Next, we have Emma Malls, pro.
Thank you. I actually kind of put my name in double, but I just wanted to say I'm very much in favor of passing this. I just wanted to also address administration turns over. And I understand that is what happens with administration level. So I just wanted to also, to the provost, I totally and completely understand you have only been here for 9 months, but many of us have been here for decades. And these are not new issues. I appreciate the acknowledgement of Kevin's concern, but that is a concern that we have brought to every administration for time after time. And it's challenging to continue to deal with new administration on issues that have been perennial issues across the university for decades. So I want to just acknowledge that we are not new here. We have been here and we will continue to be here, and this needs to be addressed now. Thank you.
So I think with that, we give Eric his 2 minutes to wrap up.
Great, thanks, President Cunningham. Yeah, I think we've heard a lot of excellent points of view today, and I'm looking forward to moving ahead with this vote. I think I'll close by just echoing something that Shanna said, right, about feeling not free to speak. One thing I didn't understand before I became chair of AF&T 4 years ago is how many people come to this committee with concerns. I talk to a lot of people outside of meetings that are worried about problems and they want to speak up and feel that they can't. This happens a lot, and it's because they don't have the protections that they need, right? And a lot of this flies under the radar. It doesn't lift up to something that the committee acts on and writes a statement on. It's that someone has a problem, I talk to them, I keep it in confidence, and then nothing happens because they feel they can't proceed without fears of retaliation. Right. So this is a big problem that is not seen. It's an invisible problem, and it's one that I think these two task forces can go a long way to fixing. And as Eva said, right, this would do so much good for the university when these people fully contribute to the work of the institution. We've heard many times how important our P&A faculty are and our contract faculty are, right? But what they need is our backing with protection so they can actually do their job and make this university a better place. So with that, I hope you will vote for this motion to create these two task forces so we can get to work cooperatively with the administration and see some really good positive changes happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And I want to thank everyone for a heated and robust and passionate expression of views. And this is the way governance works. And it's good to have everyone's views out there. So with that, I do believe we can call for the poll.
Just a few more seconds. Okay, with 89 yeses and 11 noes, that motion carries.
Thank you for that. Item 10 is old business, of which there is none. Item 11, this isn't quite right. Is there any new business? Please say no. Seeing none, if there's no further business, this concludes our meeting. Seeing no further business, we are adjourned. Have a wonderful end of the semester, everyone. Thank you so much.